Hello, today is August 11th, 2023, and it's a Friday. And today I'll be interviewing Mr. Donald Washington at the Rocky Mountain Regional VA Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado. And this is part of the Remembering Our Veterans program. How you doing this morning?
Well, for the moment, I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Well, hopefully I'll keep that good day going.
Yes, ma'am.
So first I wanted to ask about your childhood and where you were born.
Born here in Denver, Colorado, although not raised here in this state. As a matter of fact, I was raised in East Texas in a little tiny town called Kildare, Texas. It spells Kildare, Texas, with my grandparents for about 7.5 years of my childhood life.
So what year was that you left Texas?
Back in 1966.
Was it kind of hard growing up in Texas as opposed to Denver?
It was a challenge for the reason my grandfather had a huge farm and we had livestock. So cows, horses, cats, dogs, chickens, and pigs.
Wow.
And he had a lot of property. So we had to, do vegetables, fruits, and things that nature, live off the land.
So it was a lot of work. You were working on the farm the whole time?
Correct.
And so after you left Texas, did you move back to Denver?
No. My mom sent for me to come to Los Angeles, California.
Okay. So your mom was living in LA. And what about your dad?
My dad was still here in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. And whose parents were they? Your grandparents? Were they your mom's parents?
That's correct.
So what was it like moving to LA from like the farm? Was that pretty different?
Oh, definitely different. Yeah, because you're talking big city life versus rural living, so it was a huge sort of a culture shock, from the movement there in Los Angeles, being what they would consider to be a country boy, and living on a farm. Conversations, mannerism, the way we spoke was completely different from the experience of big city life. So, yeah, it was kind of a challenge in the beginning, definitely.
So you started going to school when you moved to LA. What grade was that?
Elementary school. So,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were pretty young when you started your education there.
Correct. I was about age 11.
So what was your life in LA kind of like? What was it like living with? Was it just your mom, or did you have any siblings living there?
I did. I had 2 older brothers and a sister at the time. Two other older brothers and 1 sister, because I'm the youngest on both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. So it was an experience. It was a challenge. Being the youngest, a lot of time that typical experience. Well, he's too little, or he's he's the youngest, and you sort of get treated like you're helpless. And I was technically always small frame in my younger years. So for that reason, it was kind of a difficult experience to grow up. A challenge more or less. It wasn't impossible, but more of a challenge.
And so you completed all of your education through high school in LA?
Correct.
So in those couple years, did you do any other activities outside of school in your life?
Music was one of my big interests at the time. I started a music club in my high school years, and also I was the lead singer of a band at that time. And music was sort of a form of getaway, because I was raised in South Central Los Angeles for about 14.5 years of my life. Particularly that school where I graduated from is where they started the gang called the Crips.
It was started there?
It was started there, yeah. And so it was that alone was a unique experience. But the music aspect of things, I would choose that as a form of getting away and enjoyment and pleasure. And also, it was just one of my passions at that time.
So were you growing up with a lot of gang violence then? Like, did you see a lot of that in your school?
Periodically, we did. It wasn't as overwhelming as sometimes the news media would make it, where it was like an impossible situation. It was just periodically, I wouldn't say necessarily frequently, but from time to time. And then some of it was just, overall environment, people challenging each other,
Mm-hmm.
from that perspective. Because then when I was there, like the way the media puts it, they started with the Crips, the East Side Crips, West Side Crips, and all of the different other Slauson and what have you. And then they had another organization that was called the AC Deuces, the Brims and Pyrus, later on, which became the Bloods.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but I never really had those issues, in my life where, having to directly deal with gang violence.
Mm-hmm.
You would just see it periodically.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it must have been, music was probably a good way, as you said, to like channel everything and kind of escape any hardships. And I can imagine this music in the 70s was incredible. Well, I do know it's incredible, but
Yes.
living it.
Yes, the
Ugh.
Motown era. Those are the type of songs and that type of music, and that genre is one of my passions, because I love the harmonizing, I love the romantic sounds and the lyrical content that was often positive, and it became like a roadmap for us to get through life's daily, complications, difficulties, and frustrations, and it became a way to vent some of your frustrations or to overcome some of your, difficulties, complexities in life that, with the challenges more or less that we had to face.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, I love the romantic, concept of music.
Yeah.
So, yeah, especially from that era.
And it must have been, I'm sure you said you were a big fan of Motown, and I'm sure that was pretty inspirational to see African American artists like making it big and like being so popular, coming out of like, kind of a not appreciation for it in the 60s.
Indeed. I mean, the sounds, and the way they conveyed, and serenading women, with
Mm-hmm.
positive lyrical content. That sense of sometimes when you could be lost for words, they had the magic to bring the right words to convey the right message
Mm-hmm.
without it being offensive or hateful. And they would get us to, like I said, sometimes we when we made mistakes as men in our relationship, sometimes those singers from that era would more or less give us the right words to say to help us overcome some of the mistakes we made or to give us a better perspective. And then also for women who cherish that type of concept of musical or lyrical content, being celebrated, being serenaded, and being appreciated.
Oh.
Yeah.
So after high school, you graduated, and did you go straight into the military, or did you go to college or work?
I dabbled in a little bit of college. I went to LA Trade Tech College. I wanted to be a continental gourmet chef.
Ooh.
And come to find out that when I did go, they sort of put me in an advanced class, which I wasn't prepared for. So they had to reverse the process and put me in what they would call, food services, which is the fundamentals of food preparation, understanding that portion of it first, and then moving forward from there. But as a result of the way things were financially,
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave at LA Trade Tech College and go to work to supplement the income and to be able to maintain a standard of dignified living.
Were you paying for some of your mom too, or was she kind of paying for herself? Was that a thing you had to also contribute to?
Well, no, my mom was an amazing lady. She was very resilient. She was very resourceful. So it never was to that extent. We always had a 3-course meal on a daily basis. There was never a time where we were starving and destitute nor homeless. It's just that in order to, more or less help with some of the our own personal needs, then it was necessary, pay our own bills and things of that nature.
So what was that job that you were doing after you left college to supplement your income?
One was with Napa Genuine Auto Parts. I worked with them as on the was it not the assembly line, but in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the positions that I had. Also, I worked for Wells Fargo's security in that field as well. So those were a couple of the different type of jobs that I did have to supplement income. I worked for a senior citizen home at one point. So kind of a variety of different types of jobs that, to maintain some sense of financial independence.
So what finally motivated you to join the military?
Well, one, I wanted a total change of life. I mean, I remember prior to going into the military, I was one of those kind of rebellious guys. Like, man, I'm not going in the military. That's robotic living. I'm not gonna have nobody telling me what to do, when to do, where to. But then when reality set in, I said, you know what? You need a change of life. You need a more structured life. You also need to develop some more livable skills. And then I thought about the travel benefits and also the discipline lifestyle, the structured lifestyle that I felt at that time in life I needed that experience to help maybe better my sense of direction, improve my character, also to learn how life really works and learn the structured life and knowing that, teamwork makes the dream work. Also understanding that I could develop, the military discipline lifestyle, whereas knowing and realize that we have to depend upon each other, but also to understand how what's the concept of what would be a better choice of words? I'm trying to think of the chain of command process, how that process works, understanding there's a hierarchy, there's, structures where it's designed where you start from the bottom and work your way to the top, and to be able to learn skills that can help you be promoted and to develop character so that when you do finish your time in the service, perhaps it'll open up opportunities for you to improve your lifestyle.
So what year was it that you joined and which branch did you join?
It was in 1979 and it was U.S. Army.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so did you go straight to basic training after you joined?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. Started with basic training, and then what followed the course would be after graduating from basic training, completing bivouac. Then I did AIT.
And what was your MOS?
It was what's called a 31 Mic 10, which was multi-channel communications equipment operator.
So what did that kind of involve doing?
It was, we were sort of like, I guess one of the simplest ways of putting it, we were like Bell Telephone, Pacific Bell from back in the day, AT&T. It was our job to provide crystal clear communications for all of the different platoons, brigades, and what have you, so that number one, whenever there was a need to communicate for the commanders, the battery commanders, and what have you, and the troops, that it was our job to set up the communications where they could be able to communicate with different battalions, brigades, and otherwise.
So, where were you stationed after you got out of all your training?
Well, started with, first I went through Fort Jackson, South Carolina. That was what we call our reception station, where we received our military gear. And then from there, they sent me to Fort Gordon, Georgia, where I did my basic and AIT. Then from there to Fort Hood, Texas. I was in 16 Signal Battalion in Fort Hood, Texas. And then to Germany twice. So I went to Reforger first, and then they finally sent me to Germany, and I did my period of time in Germany, 1 year, 4 months, 9 days.
And where in Germany were you stationed?
I was called Grafenwehr, Germany, which is Bavaria, West Germany.
Okay. And so what was your duties there in Germany?
Pretty much so the same, but at the time that they sent me there, they said that my MOS, which again was a 31 Mic 10 communications, was overstrength. So they had a little bit too many soldiers that were stationed there. So they put me in a particular, what they created, an MOS. It was called Battalion Readiness Center Clerk. And that particular field, we dealt with the Hawk missile system. So that particular position, it required us to work 24 hours on, 48 hours off. And the different battalions, it was a 3rd and 60th ADA artillery unit. And that position required all of the different batteries during that time, which a lot of that equipment has all been phased out, including my MOS nomenclature. Today is totally different nomenclature.
Yeah, the technology's changed so much since
absolutely, much more advanced. Well, we had the Hawk missile system, the ICCs. So the different units and battalions and brigades would have to call us every day to let us know what their equipment status was, what it was, in the yellow, if it was in the red, if it needed to be repaired, because it had to be ready. In the event that if something was to happen. So they would have to notify us on a daily basis as to the status of their equipment. And if it needed servicing or if it needed to be pulled out of service, that we were the ones that documented that information and then relay it to the upper echelon higher commanders.
So did you really like Germany in that first time? Was it pretty different from what you were used to in the US?
Absolutely. It was a unique experience. For one, I admit at the beginning, I was a bit paranoid because, again, being an individual who had never left the United States, that became a major culture shock. And all I knew about Germany was what we saw on television, what we've been told about, the German people, Hogan's Heroes, and then, of course, Adolf Hitler, and, all of those different things. So the positives and the negatives are from the, TV perspective versus reality. So being a totally new experience, I went there with a very Americanized attitude. So every day for 3 months, I did nothing but criticize those people's cultures, their customs. I was judging them consistently, not realizing I was the problem, not the German people nor Germany itself. So then I had to sit down literally with myself after 3 months and give myself a reality check. And reality check one for myself, I sat down on, first of all, this is these people's country. They don't have to change anything for you. This was like this before you were even a thought, let alone a human being. Second, I said to myself, you know what? You are obligated to be here whether you want to be or not. Why? Because you signed the paperwork, to agree to whatever the military terms were. And third, finally, I said to myself, why don't you give this place and these people a chance? You might just be surprised. And once I accepted those three realities, I had the time of my life. I became later the lead singer of a part German and American band.
Wow.
I also put on a fashion show for the troops there. So,
reasonably so.
Well, thank you very much. So, and the German people just treated us so incredibly well. And it made me realize sometimes we get in the way of ourselves because either fear or because of lack of knowledge or lack of experience or lack of understanding or because of closed-mindedness. So after those things took place, I did not want to come back to the United States.
Well, it seems like they sent you there a second time. So you came back for a little bit, but you eventually made it back.
Correct. Because the first time was what they call a reforger, and that's like what they call TDY in the military. So it's typically a short period. You might be there for 3 months or, 2 months or maybe 1 month. But then the final trip back there, I was there for 1 year, 4 months, 9 days.
How long was your first trip?
About 3 months.
Okay. And so when you went back, were you in the same station in Germany?
As a matter of fact, I was.
That must have been nice.
But different portions though, because the first time we were we were out in the Black Forest. Come to think of it, yeah, we were in the Black Forest and Karlsruhe, Kaiserslautern, and then when they sent me back the second time, they sent me again to Grafenwehr, Germany. So two different locations, primary locations, and that was what they call a training base. So they would do war games and tank maneuvers for a lot of other soldiers who were stationed in other parts of Germany, like Heidelberg, Stuttgart, Hamburg, Karlsruhe,
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, exactly. They would come to Grafenwehr to train, and so that made a big difference there.
That must have been cool. You got to see people from all over Germany coming and soldiers from different stations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Did you meet a lot of friends when you were in Germany? Did you make a lot of, did you get pretty close with your fellow soldiers?
Oh, indeed, indeed. Again, like I said, that became my opportunity to become the lead singer of a part German and American band. And again, with the fashion show thing. And also I developed some photography skills there as well. So yeah, it was an overall great experience. It really was.
Do you recall any particularly like humorous or unusual events from your time in Germany?
Well, one of the things, the first culture shock I got was when I didn't realize the men and the women shared the same restroom.
Oh.
And I remember when I went, we were out on, we had some free time, and our commanders and stuff were taking us out to see the town. And I went into a German restroom, and of course I couldn't read the language, indicating that. And when I went in the restroom, I was in there first alone, and maybe another guy. And then the next thing I knew, a German lady came inside the same restroom. Now, being raised and born in the United States, that was a totally forbidden rule, So when the lady came in there, I was like, no, miss, no. No. And she just ignored me. She went into the stall, did her business, came back out, washed her hands, and left out. One, because she spoke German and I spoke English, so we really couldn't communicate. But she didn't stay there long enough to worry about what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So that was a very kind of a frightening moment for me, and but a unique experience at the same time.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know that was a thing there.
Oh,
that's
yes.
just how it is.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it does make sense. Like, if you're all in stalls, nobody's like.
Correct. Unisex. And
anything.
you know better, you get punished if you did something stupid. So,
exactly.
Yeah, the military punishment.
So, what was your duty station after Germany? Were you stationed anywhere else abroad or just mostly in the U.S.?
No, after Germany, I ended up ETSing. So they sent me to IO process at Fort Dix, New Jersey. So that's when I completed my time.
Okay.
Because remember, initially, after going to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for reception, then next the basic and AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Then next was Fort Hood, Texas. And then so I completed my what would be considered stateside duty process. And then after that, Germany was my last portion of my final training in the military.
So is that when you retired from the military officially then? Or
I never retired. I just did my 3 years active duty in the military.
Okay. And then were you in the reserves or what did? Okay.
I did some reserve time, and then I also did National Guard time in the States. And that was both in Los Angeles, California.
So you moved back to LA to be in the reserves and be in the National Guard?
Right. Plus that was home for me initially. Yes.
So when you moved back, did you move back with your mom or on your own?
With my mom in the beginning. I sure did. Her and her husband at the time. And, until I was able to get myself settled and situated and financially established where I could afford my own place.
So before we move on from your time outside of the service, is there anything else you want to mention about your service time? Any medals or awards you got or particularly memorable experiences?
I received certificates of achievement and outstanding performance, mainly from the Reforger, which was over in Germany.
Wow.
So that I did receive. As far as other medals, the one medal was the Good Conduct Medal. because and I was told they had me on the 10 most wanted for reenlistment.
Oh, they couldn't get you though.
No, 'cause, I really wanted to change my MOS actually, and see if I wanted to go into photography,
Oh
but
yeah, you mentioned
they
that.
had such a long waiting list, and then a lot of that was based upon your ranking status. So I didn't have enough seniority to be able to do that, or nor was my rank at a point that I qualified to be able to do that. So wasn't allowed to change my MOS.
And after service, so obviously you left after they wouldn't let you change, but you still kept up with some military related things. What was it like being in the reserves in the National Guard? How big of an obligation was that?
Well, with the reserves, the reason that only lasted a short period of time, because it took them literally 6 months to get me my first paycheck. And I said, I'm not going to keep coming if I'm not being compensated.
Yeah.
So, I had to have a discussion with the right personnel, necessary sources. And then later I decided, well, I'm going to leave the reserves. And then I took a little time off, and then I decided, well, let me join the National Guard and see if I would have a better experience that didn't involve that unfortunate situation. And I did. So things worked out. I did end up missing an opportunity because of they said the FTX training, because I had actually did photography for my old alma mater, my high school. And they hired me to do the adult school pictures, and they were so pleased with the results that they called me back to start doing the photography on a regular basis, even doing student ID.
Wow.
But because we had an FTX, I talked to them about it, my commanders, my superiors, and they said, no, you can't take that time off or even come late because, again, primarily because of my ranking status at that time, lower ranking status. Rank has privileges. So I lost the opportunity because the school, like I said, they said, okay, well, you need to be back on these days. And I presented that to my superiors, and they said, we can't. So I blew that whole opportunity after that.
And what were you doing? So you said you were doing some photography, but what were you doing for your main job outside of the National Guard once you quit the reserves?
I think at the time, I think it was both the security, and then later on, like I said, with Napa Genuine Auto Parts.
So you're doing that after service, okay?
And like I said, then later on too, I went. Well, no, because I'm thinking 75. That was, I'm going to say some college, but I went in after 79. So no, it was security work is what I did, and also American Protective Services. Again, too, did, like I said, some singing. Well, after I came out the military, too, I got invited again to my alma mater to be a guest singer in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King back in 1989.
Wow.
And fortunately, that became somewhat a positive experience. The reason why I say somewhat, for the reason that I was promised a copy of the main performance, and I never received that. But they did call me back to sing again for the students' graduation. So I sung in front of 2,000 people, and that was a great experience from that. So yes.
It seems like music's been a very consistent thing throughout your life, and being a singer.
Indeed. I even started a music club when I was in high school.
You said, yeah.
And we ended up, started out with 2 members and ended up with 75 members.
Wow.
It was called the Music Experience Club. And to this day, some of the members and I are still in touch. We got a chance to we got 50 free tickets to go see them play Hair. We got a chance to interview the group called the Dramatics. We got them to come to our school. We got a tour of Columbia Records, ABC Records, Capitol Records.
That's crazy.
They donated thousands of albums and songs to our club. And I can't take all credit for that. I was just more or less the founder. and the organizer, but I had
That
great
sounds like you
people.
can take credit. You're the founder and organizer.
But yeah, there were other people that were very instrumental. Some of the school teachers
Oh,
helped, and they were
that's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, so they got us opportunity. We got to see Miles Davis perform for free.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. We had a chance to see the Parliament Funkadelics for free, the group Bloodstone for free, so the Doobie Brothers, and so yeah, that came from that club that we started.
Where's my time machine?
Indeed, yes, ma'am. Mhm.
And so, would you say that's music still one of your favorite hobbies today that you do? And
It is.
you're,
It really is.
are you still performing?
No, unfortunately, not at this time. Some things happened with the group I was with, and the group fell apart.
Mm.
And at one point, I actually lost my voice. But unique to say, and this is going to sound very weird, I ended up getting the COVID back in 20, and I was here in this hospital for 12 days.
Oh my gosh.
They actually literally gave me 10 days to live. Literally, they said that would probably be the most that I would have. I didn't have to have the respirator or what have you, but I ended up with they had me on blood thinners and oxygen.
Mm.
But unique to say, because prior to the COVID, I actually lost my singing voice. After the COVID, I got my singing voice back. I can't explain it. I don't know why.
You nearly died, but you can sing again.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly.
That's crazy.
It is. It is. And so, there was one unique thing that came out of that experience, So,
Do you have a favorite song you might want to give us a little clip of, if you're willing to?
Well, when I was with the groups that I sung with, I'm a big fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes.
We used to do songs by Bloodstone, Cameo, Whispers, Temptations, groups like that. But Earth, Wind, and Fire was always one of my passions. Mr. Philip Bailey, one of my all-time favorite songs with him, among many, was Reasons, the live versions, and also Keep Your Head to the Sky. The performance that I did in Los Angeles, I did Keep Your Head to the Sky. The song Reasons is what got me in the group that I was with here, So, we did that. But singing wise, I mean, you said you want like a little excerpt?
Yeah.
Well, let's see this little piece. Can't find the reasons after all the reasons why. All of the reasons were lie. Yeah. Now I'm willing to love you with my mind. Things like that. So
that was incredible. I was not expecting you to go high. That is some range you've got there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm shocked. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I did. So right now, what are you currently doing for work? You said you were doing security?
Yes, ma'am.
You said the graveyard shift, right?
Correct, yes.
And what is that security work like? What are you guarding?
Well, I work at a location, I don't know if we can say it only, but it's what we consider as a behavioral center. It's for people that have mental and psychological, issues. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are destitute. Some of them just need aid and assistance. So this particular location provide them the opportunity to get the assistance that they need, or they try to help them. Plus, some of them they give them temporary lodging. Some of them, some cases, they help them actually get on the list to qualify to get homes, or shelter. So that's something that I admire what they are doing. And it's good to know that this country or this city or this state is doing, they have programs like that for people who really have severe situations. And sometimes when society have a tendency to kick them to the side or, toss them to the side or ignore them. So they have a place of refuge that they can come and get to talk to people that can probably help them to overcome some of the things, not necessarily all of the things, but yeah. So, and my position there is, to maintain security, of
Mm-hmm.
course, and to try to keep things to deter different potential crime or
Mm-hmm.
problems. So basically, that's what I do.
That's really awesome.
Thank
Do
you.
you run into any other veterans in your work there?
Oh yes, yes. There's a few veterans, fellow veterans that actually work. We work there
Oh,
at the
wow.
location. Some of us work different shifts, but we acknowledge each other. And then there are some of the veterans that actually come there who are in those situations where they need assistance.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, is the case. But again, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that becomes an occasional situation.
It's so hard. It's to imagine, the people, and not even to imagine, but to see the people who've served our country, like pretty much getting abandoned or not getting the kind of help and assistance they need. So it's pretty great that there are organizations even outside of like the VA and government programs that can help.
True. And no veteran should ever have to be faced with that type of scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, this country, we cannot call ourselves great, if we do not take care of the ones who help build this country, who help maintain this
Mm-hmm.
country, whether they're enlisted or were drafted, that this country owed all of the veterans, regardless to what
True.
era, from World War One, World War Two, and beyond, to the current peacetime. They still should honor veterans with genuineness, care, concern, and consideration. And no veteran should be homeless, should be starving, should be
Mm-hmm.
destitute. How is that thanks? And how could you put the word great in front of that type of scenario? So I feel this country should do much more to not just say, and I choose the words when I acknowledge fellow veterans. I don't like to just say thank you for your service, because for a while it started to sound very cliche.
Yeah.
So to me, I often say thank you for your sacrifice and your service, because for
Mm-hmm.
me, the sacrifice is far greater than just the service. Because look at what you're giving up in order to provide a sense of security and safety for American citizens and beyond, even the non-citizens. And this is a thing that this country should back that up and stand with the veterans and let them know they really, really honestly care. Because words are too convenient.
Mm-hmm.
As I tell people, words can fade, words can be misinterpreted, they can be ignored, they can be misunderstood, they can be forgotten. But action becomes the undeniable fact. You cannot deny. And that's why I often make the statements, what difference does an opinion make if it is not based upon a fact?
Mm.
And what I love about a fact, I even told my own son this. The thing I love about a fact is you don't have to defend the fact. Why? Because a fact will defend itself. It is the undeniable. It means it's been tried, tested, and proven. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
needs to be done for all United States veterans, regardless of what race, creed, color, or ethnicity, regardless of what gender, male or female, it doesn't matter. You served.
Mm-hmm.
And to come back to the country that you protected or you served for, and to be pushed aside or ignored or left destitute or not heard or have programs that are not designed to. I mean, it- when you think that should be embarrassing.
Yeah, I think
And
it is.
it should be embarrassing to this country, and it's a black eye in this country's history. And not only that, even for what I said about how myself, and I challenge anybody to do research on this. I will tell people, especially from the era I was there in Germany, if you did a survey of 10 different veterans, regardless of what branch of service, who were
Mm-hmm.
stationed overseas, and I'm going to speak highly of Germany, I can almost guarantee you that 7 out of 10 of them, if you ask them, if you could have stayed in Germany versus come back to the United States, what would you choose? And I'll tell you, 7 out of 10 will probably say, I would have rather stayed over in Germany. Why? Because of how well we were treated there by the German people. The other 3%, well, of course, they're diehard Americans, and I understand they're, patriotic and things of that nature. And, but at the end of the day, some of them too, they feel like maybe they didn't have a good experience, or maybe it was, negative for their perspective. But that other 7, out of the 10 feel the way I do. And that's male and female soldiers who felt like, man, how is it that I was treated so much better there and welcomed there, yet the very country that I live in, that I was raised in, I was born in, and I get pushed aside and ignored.
Was some of that, did you notice, like, as an African American, you were treated a little better in Germany than in the US?
Absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that, again, that should be embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it's a reality. I'm not saying that racism did not exist when we were there. Of course it does.
Remember
all over the world.
Remember the 1940s.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hitler, the Hitler regime, the neo-Nazis, that process. But at the end of the day, and let me cut this off. I apologize. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it off. I apologize. I wouldn't expect it, any kind of call. So please forgive us if you have to pause.
We cut it out.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, let's hang it up. Okay. And I'm going to cut this off. So please forgive us. That's my boss. That's nice. We're going to end that right quick. I apologize. Now it doesn't want to turn. Oh, there you go. There you go. And I neglected to do that. So please forgive us. Now, so it's off. The phone is literally off. Yeah. But, as an African American, that became a shock to me because, again, prior to going, I was, even my friends, and it's a funny story. I'll be real brief with it. When I went back when they sent me for my leave from Fort Worth, Texas, before they shipped me overseas to Germany, my friends, buddies, and associates, the only thing they knew about Germany is what they saw on TV. And again, what I choose the words, what we've been spoon fed about the German people and the German culture and, the racism and things of that nature. So when they first told me, when I first told them, I said, man, I'm going to Germany. But my friends were saying, man, they sending you to Germany. They must be trying to kill you, man. You black, man. That's Hitler's country. I mean, and I actually listened to that. And that's what part of made me a little paranoid before going. But again, reality spoke for itself. That's what I mean, again, when I mentioned about what I love about a fact. You don't have to defend the fact because a fact will defend itself. You don't have to argue about it. These are the facts. Opinions, everybody have one. Flies, mosquitoes, cats, dogs, they all have opinions. But what matters are the facts because, and again, the difference between using that scenario, I tell people there's a difference between smelling food and tasting food. And that reality applies to the U.S. veterans who have served. The conversation is the smelling the food, but you need substance. You need something that can help you survive to take you through life. So yes, as an African American stationed over in Germany, it was an incredibly great experience. The German women were very romantic. I was shocked. I thought I was going to be rejected. Like, oh no, you black, but it was the opposite, and it was a beautiful experience. And to this day, I cherish everything that I learned over there, their culture, the way they live, and they celebrate life over in that country. And they don't push or kick their elderly citizens to the curb after they reach a certain age, like we often do in this country. They don't forget them. When I was there, you see elderly people out riding their bicycles in their 80s, their 90s, and enjoying it. And they did things like the Oktoberfest, the Volksmark, all of those beautiful things that sometimes seems we have forgotten in this country. And some of the other things that I admired about being over there, when you would go into a restaurant in Germany, unlike here in the United States. In Germany, if you go into a restaurant and there's seats available at a table where there are people, German people already seated, they are offended if you don't come over there and sit down because you came here, you came to eat, and there's a space. I don't have to know you for us to enjoy a meal together. In the United States, well, you have to wait till the table becomes available, because the people may not want you sitting next to them, so.
More communal culture as opposed to individualistic, I think.
Yes, and the nightclubs are the same way. As many as you may walk into a German club, next thing you know, you go sit down, somebody send you, a glass of beer or a glass of wine. They're not trying to date you. They're not trying to flirt with you. It's just to say, Prost, welcome, see, cheers, America, we could learn from that. I was like, I don't know them. I'm not giving them. Well, I wouldn't give them beer. Why? So I wish we could change that about our character, personality, and disposition.
You mentioned little romance and dating. Did you meet anybody during your time in the service?
Oh, yes. I dated German women, and they were some of the most romantic women I ever dated in my life. Very loving, very supportive, very romantic. I'm not saying that American women are not, because there are a lot of American women who are, but it was something about the uniqueness of that willingness and that loving kindness and that supportiveness that made that also a special experience for me. And again, like I said, it was a shock because assuming, and this is where we get ourselves in trouble, we assume because we don't have the facts, and we allow ourselves to be, programmed, conditioned, even brainwashed that this is what you are going to expect. And we fall for that hook, line, and sinker. But have an experience. And at the end of the day, like I said, I thought they would be like, no, you're Black. I'm not going to, no, but that wasn't the case. They were very loving, very romantic.
And so when you got, like, after your service time, was that when did you ever get married? Or?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I am married to this day. I was married at the time when I was shipped overseas. The marriage didn't work. It didn't last. So, yes, I actually been married. I have one son from the results of one of my marriages.
The first marriage,
yeah,
okay.
Actually, the second marriage.
Okay.
I actually married my first wife 2 times. We didn't have no children. Seriously.
How did the second time happen?
Well, I was always already deeply in love, but my ex-wife, she was a little bit younger than me, not a whole lot younger than myself. And she felt like in the beginning it was just too much love. She wasn't really ready for that extent or that degree of love. And she even told me with her own words. So we were apart for about 1.5 years, but we started reopening the communication. It was what I was hoping. And at the end of the day, things didn't quite turn out still because there was issues in our relationship. One, I had became very religious at that time, and she wasn't quite prepared, and she would always get a lot of compliments about her looks and how attractive she was, and her friends was always in her ear. You guys just go to church, girl. You should be going to clubs, nightclubs. So and that started to wear on her mind, and as much as I didn't like the fact that our marriage ended, but I also realized that sometimes timing is bad. Sometimes you're not in the same place at that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I learned, life taught me, I don't like to say how life works, so I say my life's experience taught me that you shouldn't try to keep someone who don't want to stay. It's better to let them go, give them their freedom. And, the best person to be with is someone who really wants to be with you. Nothing should ever be by force, duty, or obligation. It should always be by choice.
And you still got a son out of it, right?
Oh, yes. I did. Yeah.
And what year was he born?
Back in 1992. Yeah, he's age 30. And
So your second marriage was with her was after you finished service? You guys got remarried?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And that was from a totally different woman. You know, the first woman, like I said, I married her 2 times.
And I mean, when you remarried her, what year was that when you remarried her?
It was, we got remarried shortly since they sent me over to Germany in 1980. So it was about the second time around, it was about 1980 in that area.
Okay.
You know,
And so you, the two of you didn't have children? Or you had,
no, we
okay.
never did have any children together at all. The woman I married twice, we didn't have any children at all.
But your current wife, you had a son with?
Not my current wife, the one before my current
Okay.
wife. Yeah. So legally, I've been married legally a total of 3 times to 3 different women. You know, well, no, actually, it would be 4 times because first one twice, and then my son's mom, and then the lady that I'm married to right now.
And so with your son's mom, were you guys, what was that kind of relationship like with your son? Was that pretty great?
You know, in fact, it became a beautiful experience. We didn't think that we would be able to have any children at first, you know, but you know, we had our ups and downs like all relationships does. It's a reality to life. But you know, the beauty of it all is she's a great mom for my son. She loving, supportive. She's got his back. I'll have his back. Blood, sweat, or tears, win, lose, or draw, come hell or high waters. And it's just, you know, like I said, she is a loving mother and parent. And my son and I, to this day, we get along very well. He lives here in Colorado. Him and his ladies. I have now 4 grandchildren to my son. Yes. So, you know, I have 3 young boys, 3 grandsons, and 1 girl, 1 female, and the girl is the oldest.
Okay,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes, yes, she's a senior.
And so when did you have him in Colorado?
No, ma'am, it was in Los Angeles, California.
So when did you move back to Colorado?
I moved here close in the year 2000.
Okay.
And initially, what actually brought me back to Colorado was I wanted to meet my biological father for the first time in my life. I was age 15 when I first met my biological father.
Wow.
I used to bug my mom to death and ask her questions about my dad. And the uniqueness of my mother's personality, her wisdom, which as a child I didn't like. I didn't understand it because every time I would ask my mom about my dad, she would always answer, I don't know. Now, I'm kind of an analytical person, if not totally as much. So, you know, so to me, my question, how can you not know? And her answer would always be, I didn't know. And finally, she got tired of me getting on her nerves and bugging her about it. So she said, we're going to send you to your dad, although we had to locate him here. He was here in Colorado. And by way of one of her girlfriends that she went to school with here in Denver in her younger years, they stayed in touch and from time to time. And so at 15 years old, my mom said, I had enough. You want to find him? We had to locate him because we didn't have an address for him. And she sent me to stay with her girlfriend. And put me on the bus, wrote my name on my luggage, and a girlfriend met me at the bus station. And so we tracked my father down because he was a religious man, and through his church. And but many years later, and I'm glad, I'm grateful to my mom because about 4 years prior to my mom's demise, before she passed away, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, please correct me if I am wrong. But is the reason why you never talked about my dad, is it because you believe in the concept that if you have nothing good to say, then don't say anything at all? And she shook her head and she said, yes, that's correct. And that wisdom is the same wisdom now I also use with my own son.
That's great.
I never speak negative or ill of his mom, which I don't have any reason to anyway. But still, if it was the case, I don't bad mama's mom, and I don't do that to this day, and I choose not to. And now that I understand through her wisdom that was wiser than what I could imagine, and so I use that concept, and that's why I use that teddy bear, grizzly bear thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than call somebody some ugly names, well, teddies, grizzlies. You know what I'm saying? So,
So when you came back to Colorado afterwards, so you went when you were 15 to visit your dad, and
yes.
then when did you come back to permanently live here? You said 2000?
Yes, yes. My mother would send me back during the summer months when my dad was still alive. He's passed on as well. He passed
Okay.
before my mother did. And at the time, actually, I was still married to the woman I married twice. And in fact, we were on our way to visit him when he was in the hospital. He had a stroke,
Mm.
and he passed away back in the 70s. Um, so I fell in love with Denver. I used to call Denver the land of teddy bears, back in the 70s, because the women, what I loved about the women here during that time, they didn't mind if they saw a guy they liked. Hey, come here, And I love women like that, and I thought that was beautiful. They were assertive. I don't like to
Very
use it.
outgoing,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
confident.
they didn't. Yeah, I love that in women. So that I told my friends in Los Angeles, man, you guys need to move to Denver because the women here are friendlier. And so that was one of the reasons I moved here. Plus, I felt Denver was prettier because how clean they kept the state. Uh, and I wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle of
Yeah.
Los Angeles life, overcrowdedness and the demands and the cost of living.
So you met your third wife while you were here, or I mean your current wife?
Yes, yes. When I was driving the RTD buses.
Oh.
Yeah, she was one of my passengers. And
Oh.
that's how we met, and we would see each other periodically when I would pick her up on my one particular
Mm-hmm.
route that I drove. And she indicated that she admired my personality, the way I would treat my passengers. And she said one of the things that really struck her was during one of my trips, there was an elderly lady who had a walker that needed to get across the street safely. And I told all of my passengers, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to be patient with me. I want to assist her across the street so that, she could make it safely to the
Mm-hmm.
curb. And I said, please bear with me. And she thought that was so endearing. And
Aw.
that was one of the things that touched her heart. And she said, and she noticed my personality was consistent. I don't have a schizophrenic personality. This is not only how I am, this is also who I am on purpose.
So what year did you guys get married?
Now we just recently celebrate on the 31st of this past July, 4 years of marriage.
Oh.
Yes.
But have you been together we were together a while before marriage, or when did you meet?
Not really, not a long time. We just started talking periodically through the bus trips, and then we exchanged our number. Well, I gave her my number and gave her an option or choice if she felt like she wanted to use it or toss it, So through the conversations, we start developing an interest in each other, and began communicating on a more frequent basis. And as time went by, we found that we share some things in common. I am her senior, and she's actually from Barbados.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I never heard of Barbados until we met. Periodically in some movies they mention Barbados. Where in the world is that? So yeah, but she's an island girl, and she's from that part of the world.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Seems like I always say it's better to start off as friends, and you guys
Yes.
got to know each other, and then you realize you have feelings, and
True.
that's so sweet.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
So, just some kind of reflections about your life. How would you say that military service has affected your life today in the memoir?
And for one thing, I love what I learned about discipline and organization and structure. The way they even taught us things about the importance of keeping their clothes together, the way they suggested we place them in our car, neatness, being on time, respecting again the ranking process, or the chain of command process. Even to this day, I understand that concept and why it was necessary. Also, readiness, being prepared in the event if there is something of an urgent nature, or if wartime circumstances came about, like back in
Mm-hmm.
September 11th. If I had not have gotten that training that the military gave me, I think I would have possibly been one of those people who was confused and not knowing how to handle that, how to accept it, or how to deal with it, or adjust to it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Plus, again, it taught me the significance of camaraderie, teamwork. Like I said, working together as a team and realizing the significance of how we should represent ourselves publicly and professionally. Those are some of the things, the characteristics of the military that I will always cherish. Again, to the travel experiences that I honestly do not believe I would have ever gotten if I had
Mm-hmm.
joined the military. Um, then also about being structured and having a sense of direction, understanding, planning, and some of their favorite phrases about, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and wish you had it. In other words, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And those concepts are smart. Those are
Mm-hmm.
they're intelligent, and I really wish this country would have some of the same rules as some of the other foreign countries, that everybody, male and female, should have to at least give a year to 2 years of your life under military training to understand how that process works, and not just how the military structure works, but how life in general, like on your jobs, in school, discipline, self-control, self-respect, professional courtesy, appearance, attitude, mannerism,
Yeah.
disposition, character. All of those factors are things that I felt the military helped polish me in and fine tune me in, that I will forever cherish, and apply even to this day in my daily life.
So, for last thing, if there's a message you could leave for future generations and maybe for your grandkids, what would that be?
Well, I would actually desire if my grandchildren could also join the military, if for no other reasons other than one, understanding structure,
Mm-hmm.
understanding chain of command, understanding discipline, learning the reality of life, that you're not going to always get what you want just because you want it. Also, being prepared in the event of emergencies. Now, also overcoming selfishness and self-centeredness, and also experiencing other races of all different creeds, colors, and ethnicities, that we can or should be able to live together and cohabitate together. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're going to need each other without judging each other, without criticizing each other, or without competing with each other. But understand, again, like the saying goes, teamwork makes the dream work. You play like a team, you have a better chance at winning the game. And to experience in real life cultures versus someone dictating to you how other people of different cultures may live, think, or act, or not always assuming because someone doesn't look like you that they have something against you, or
Mm-hmm.
you should have something against them. And that every day can be a learning experience. And then because of the physical training that you can get to develop your body, you know, all of those different things are things that I feel that my grandkids could benefit from. And in many ways, I kind of wish I was still there. I mean, it was a challenge. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna say every day was easy, and I'm gonna say that sometimes I was very rebellious. I was a little set in my ways and a little stubborn and pig-headed, but I also knew that I had a responsibility, and Again, understanding when you sign that contract, you must realize that it comes with some sets of rules and guidelines that you are obligated to, whether you agree with them or not, whether you like them or not, whether you understand them or not, you know, and they're there for reasons. And it took me a lot of years to understand when they would be up in our face yelling at us. It's like the drill sergeants, you know, and I had the attitude, man, you know, you get out of my face with that, you know, don't me talking to me. But I understand now more than ever, they were conditioning us. They were helping us to develop a sense of courage and understanding and learning that, guess what, if you should ever become captured as a prisoner of war, you have to be able to endure that process. You're not going to get favors. They're not going to be babying you and pacifying you. And you need to know that if they're yelling, you no longer have the rights that you thought you had as a civilian, you know, and that is to prepare you. So if you are captured, this is what it's going to be like. They're going to call you names. They're going to humiliate you. You may be physically abused. You need to be able to handle that. You need to be able to do that. So it's not about just because they enjoy yelling at you and trying to dehumanize you and humiliate you. It's to prepare you. It's to condition you. It's to make you, put you in a readiness mode and to help you to become alert and also to save somebody else's life other than just your own. You know, so those are a lot of the factors that later on in the process of the military and even after, I realized, I think that's why they was yelling at me. That's why it was so hard running up and down hills, and parts of it I didn't like was when everybody had to pay, you know, for what one person did wrong. And I'm like, man, no, make them pay. Well, they were letting us understand, guess what? All of you are in this. That man or that woman, if they mess up, all of us mess up.
Yeah, especially in the field. Yeah,
correct.
That happens.
Correct. So those are things that I still cherish to this day, and those are things I wish. One of the reasons why I wish all three of my grandsons and even my granddaughter could have those experiences to have a better understanding. You know, it's nothing like real life experience versus assumption, feelings, thoughts, and opinions. They're nice, that's human, but experience, in fact, is the greatest teacher above all things.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it.
Indeed.
Is there, before we end the interview, is there anything else you'd like to add or anything we missed?
Well, something else I'd like to say, thank both of you ladies for this opportunity that you've given me. Thank you for patiently waiting for me because we've been at this for a while trying to get the this interview set up, and not at any time were you ever rude, condescending, arrogant. I was like, man, are you just pulling our leg? You wasting our time. If you're not going, not once did either of you ever convey that to me. You waited patiently. You gave me the time I needed, and you did it with gratitude and not attitude. You guys were very kind and considerate. I mean it. And I appreciate this. And also, I appreciate the opportunities that you all are giving fellow veterans to have a voice that oftentimes we never get to have. And to know that you all are doing something and it's sincere. This is not, what I would consider to be fake or phony or superficial. It's genuine. And you allow us to be who we are as opposed to. So for anybody else that may be listening, this wasn't rehearsed. This is all natural. I never thought in my lifetime I'd ever get a chance to share these type of things, on camera in this manner. And, and both you ladies are just amazing. Your personalities, your manners, your character, your concern. And this needs to go on and on and on. And more veterans need to be exposed to this. And I will say this out loud to all fellow veterans. You've been given an opportunity to have a voice, to convey and to say what you feel from your heart. And to not take this opportunity is to do yourself a major injustice. and it doesn't make sense to complain, judge, and criticize if when someone's opening the doors of opportunity for you to convey or to express what you honestly feel, from the heart. So, fellow veterans, please embrace this opportunity, celebrate the opportunity, and these ladies listen to you as you can see and as well as you can hear. They're not sitting here to coach me. I'm not reading a script. This is all natural and it's all sincere. So I thank you, each of you, and all those who are in charge of this process. Let them know that this is appreciated and also will be celebrated. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's amazing to hear. That's why I do this project, is to hear like the incredible stories from every vet. There's no one's story is the same as everyone else's. And I think it's so important to preserve people's memories and experiences and the good and bad parts of their lives, and to make sure that people know the reality of the world we live in and what it's actually like to be a veteran. Because as you've talked about, there's so much misinformation, and it's just, you want to hear the truth about what it's like. And so I thank you so much for coming in and for everything you've done today and for the time you've given to our country.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate your appreciation.
Yes.
Please excuse my gloves. I appreciate your appreciation, both of you.
Yeah.
And this project to me is worthy of national airplay. This project to me should be experienced by every veteran. They need to advertise this so that more veterans, a lot of us don't even know you guys exist, that this program exists. Yeah. See,
Gabby, chair of marketing.
Yes, and that's what we need to do. Is get you guys exposed and let other veterans know.
Yeah.
And if they see these videotapes, man, you mean I can say that? I can tell that part of my story. It's better than having someone else tell your story.
Oh yeah.
Get it straight from the source. Facts will beat everything. Opinions, well, they fade, like I said. But facts are the undeniables. And so, you get a chance to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. But at least at the end of the day, it's honesty. And that's rare. So thank you, ladies, for this opportunity.